everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. I got two markers here. We're a third into the way of the season. Let's see if the Coyotes are meeting my expectations, which I set out for them in the season preview. Now, obviously, the expectations, being a fan of the Coyotes this year, last year, and we'll see how much longer, isn't like, make the playoffs, win a round, the usual expectations for other teams. But I made up 5 expectations I had. Wouldn't be too down on myself if they didn't meet them, but let's see if they did meet them. Some they did, some they didn't. The first one was no steps back, and we're going to give that a green check mark. What I mean here is for individual players. Last year we saw Krause with a great season. Clayton Keller, Christian Fischer had an up season from previous years. Nick Schmaltz was almost a point per game player. So, and Barrett Hayden had a career year as well. We'll talk about Hayden. So for me, I didn't want to see these players take a step back. Now, the majority of them did not take a step back. We got huge steps forward. Well, okay, we'll start with Keller. He didn't take a step forward. He maintained the same step. He didn't take a step back, which is what I also said. As long as they don't take steps back, I'm good with it. If they can maintain their pace, to me, that's taking a step forward or maintaining that pace, which would lead me to believe that Andre Tourigny is doing a good job with these players. If they took a step back or couldn't match that pace from last season, then something is obviously wrong. But players that did take a huge step forward, Krause, unbelievable, got a goal last night against San Jose. Believe he's at 13 goals now, on pace for 40. Keep it up, Lawson Krause. Vejmelka, one of the top goalies, if not the best goalie in terms of goals saved above expected. We got Moser, who's gobbling up so many points. Jacob Chikrin took a huge step forward from last season. Last season was a huge disappointment for Chikrin, but he's doing very well since coming back from injury. We have Michelli taking an unbelievable, unexpected step forward from last season. Last season, he came out strong, but then was quiet for a long stretch of time. Now, still in his rookie and Calder, category for his career. He's second in rookie scoring. He got an assist last night. Believe he's up to 20 points now in the season. Him and Krause is just money, and Bukestad filling in that center role. It's a really good line, and it works, and they haven't been taken apart since they've been put together. And Christian Fischer as well. I think he's having a great season. There was times, maybe in the last Rick Tocchet year, even last year, didn't seem to have the juice, the mojo, but he's got some speed this year. He scored 2 breakaway goals. I love him with him and McBain. We'll see. I wish there was another player on that fourth line with more offensive mindedness and more energy than O'Brien. I feel like O'Brien, he's one of those anchor players. I know some fans really like him. I like him too. I just don't expect him and don't like him playing every game. I wish he could just rotate in with like a younger power forward, maybe like Ben McCartney, who's in Tucson, but maybe that's for next season. So I would say the Coyotes did meet this expectation. The players that did not meet this expectation, obviously Barrett Hayden, still only 3 points on the year in 27 games. And Nick Schmaltz, I know he was injured and he just came back from injury, but his points per game has dropped a little bit, if not a lot, to be honest. Last season he finished with .93 points per game. This year he's on pace for .58, but like I said, just came back from injury. He's a bit of a slow starter sometimes. He'll get his legs under him, and if Keller maintains his point per game pace, which he is, Schmaltz is just going to get more points just, as default because they're on the same line. So I think a lot of players took a step forward. Very rare a player took a step back. Hayden's a special case. Offensively, it's just not working for him. He'll be in another category here, which is the next category. That's a good segue. He's not producing offensively, but he is our best face-off man. But unfortunately, the Coyotes are not meeting this expectation of having a good face-off percentage. Now, this team is void of talent, so I picked some categories where you don't necessarily need high end talent to be at the top of these categories. But the Coyotes only have a 45.7% face-off percentage, and that is 28th in the league. So they're down in the dumps in face-offs. Like I said, Hayden is leading the way with 51.4% on the face-offs. Being over 50% is great. So good on Hayden. Even though it's not working for him on the score sheet, he's finding other details in the game to be good at. Face-offs is one of them. And being in front of the net on the power play, keep an eye on that. You know, he's on PP1 now with Keller and Schmaltz. They've been shuffling the power play a little bit since Schmaltz and Chychrun came back from injury. But you'll see some power play goals, if not most of them. Hayden is in front of the net, and coaches love that. So that is why Hayden is not being scratched. He has good face-off numbers and goes to the front of the net. And he's also a mainstay on the penalty kill in terms of forwards. So if you're wondering why he's not being scratched, those are the reasons why. What's also interesting is that the Coyotes have been consistent with their face-off guys. They have 4 face-off players, all 4 of them centermen. Never really have switched to centerman up since day one, since game one. It's been these 4 horses. So like I said, we got Hayden, and then McBain has a 46.4% face-off percentage. Just below him is Nick Bukestad with 46.3% face-off percentage. And then, that's Boyd, almost tied with McBain. Last place is Bukestad with 44.1%, which is bad. Like, that's way below 50. So, McBain and Boyd around 46.3, 46.4%. They could increase a little bit and get closer to 50, but Bukestad needs to practice his face-offs. 44 is much too low, and it's bringing down, the face-off percentage for the team. Face-offs are good because you start out with the puck, you get to make plays, you're not on your heels, you don't need to defend as much, and in terms of like a power play or short-handed, it's better to win that face-off. So on the PK side, you're not hemmed in your own zone. And on the PP side, you start out with control and could attack quickly instead of skating back all the way in your own end to retrieve the iced puck. So yeah, face-off percentages could be much better. And then penalty kill percentage, it was good. It was top 10 in the league, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to be above average, even with face-offs. I didn't want it to be top 10 face-off, top 10 penalty kill. I expect both of these statistics to be above average, to be, 16th in the league, 15th, 14th. But unfortunately, their PK has dropped from around top 10 to 22nd in the league at 76.3%. It is below average. The average is around 77 or 78%. Like I said, they started out in the top 10, and they're 3rd in the league in the amount of penalties taken. They take way too many penalties. Some games they take like 7 or 8, and they average out to just above 4 penalties per game, which it should be like 3, around the 3 penalties per game mark. 4 is much too high to be consistent 4 penalties per game. You better have a good penalty kill for taking 4 penalties per game. But it's been down in the dumps. Not sure why. I mean, they've been switching guys out, but it seems like the main people on our PK are McBain, Fisher, Krause, Hayden, Bukestad, and O'Brien. No longer is Clayton Keller part of the penalty killing. Maybe that's why it's poor. I'm not sure. But Keller, his ice time is increased because not because he's on the PK, but because the Coyotes are going with 11 forwards now, so Clayton Keller is a most likely candidate to be double shifted, so that's where his extra ice time is going. Remember last year, Keller's ice time was increased because he was playing on the penalty kill, but even though he's on the penalty kill anymore, his ice time is still the same due to being double shifted. So that's good to see that, the coaching staff is still continuing to deploy Keller just in different situations. And he's too tired. When you're double shifted, you're too tired to play power play, PK, and all these 5-on-5 minutes. So that's the only real change to the penalty kill. It's just that Keller's not on the PK defensively. There's guys like Brown, Valimaki, Moser, Chikrin sometimes. They shuffle around the defense, Nemeth. Any one of those guys could be on the PK. So they got to get it back to where it was at the beginning of the season. But for now, not meeting my expectation. And number four is less blowouts. Technically, there are getting more blown out than last season, if you can believe it. I had to do a double take with the stats I took. To me, in my mind, without looking at stats, I feel like the Coyotes get blown out way less than last year, but it is not true. In these 27 games, they've been blown out 5 times. My definition of being blown out is losing a game by 4 or more goals. So we got the first game of the season, Pittsburgh losing 6-2. And then back-to-back 6-2 losses against Montreal and Ottawa. And then the 7-2 loss against Dallas. And obviously the most recent one, 8-2 to Edmonton. So, 3 of them were in the really early stages of the season. Maybe that's why I think they don't really get blown out anymore. Last season, they had 4 blowout losses at the same point. But last year, they finished with 32% of their regulation losses were blowouts, were 4 goals or less or more, deficits. This year, 35% of their regulation losses are blowouts. For this one, I'm going to say they're meeting it. Because to me, it really doesn't feel like they're getting blown out a lot. Like I said, 3 of those games out of the 5 were in the really early stage of the season. They're playing some big competition and they're not getting blown out. Even in games where they're kind of out of it, like the Minnesota game, they were down 4-1. They managed to score 2 goals and make it 4-3. Vegas, they didn't play well, but they're only down 1-0 and ultimately lost 4-1. Last night too, the first period, they looked dead in the water. They looked like the Coyotes had no energy, but somehow found a way to be competitive and make it a 3-2 loss. So I think the Coyotes are way more competitive this year than last year. Last year, they had a lot of 3-goal losses, but this year, they're more competitive. They're entertaining games. They're watchable games, which I think is what my expectation really should have been. I know I wrote down less blowouts, but what I really mean is be more competitive. I want to be entertained. I want to get up and watch every single game. And that's exactly what they're doing. So you got to keep it rolling. I expect that it won't be 32% of their regulation losses will turn into blowouts. I think it'll be around maybe 28, 25%. I think as the season goes on, they'll be more competitive, less blowouts. But you never know. Maybe at the trade deadline, Bill Armstrong just sells off everyone, and then we do get these blowout losses. But, it's hypothetical. We really don't know. And, of course, injuries could happen. A lot of the blowouts that happened last year happened around the Keller injury and after his injury. So as long as, no devastating injury, we should be okay. If it happens that Vejmelka gets injured, that percentage of blowouts could be around 40%. Finally, the home experience. Now, I got something controversial to say. I hope all of you watched that game last night. It was in San Jose. The amount of empty seats in that arena was embarrassing. I know that's hard to say as a Coyotes fan because we've been there, but to me, it shows you need to have a winning hockey team on the ice. Even if you've had so much success like San Jose, they were such a consistent playoff team for so long. They've had so much success. They had great, almost Hall of Fame players in the past 10, 15 years. They're an exciting team. They have fans all around the world. But, if they lose and they have bad seasons, this is what happens. That arena, to me, I didn't look at the numbers. To me, it looked like 30 to 40% of the seats were empty. And especially that each seat has an LED flickering light. So whenever they came back from commercial or they played some music, all the lights would flash to the beat of the music, and it was just empty. It was hard to watch, hard to see. Just because you're a good team like San Jose was in the past, you need to win. You can't carry that goodwill to be like an original six team where the Toronto Maple Leafs had so many years of bad hockey, yet they sold out every game. Their original six team, they're in Canada. They're not in warmer climates. These warmer climate teams, if they have consecutive bad seasons, these fans are not going to show up. So, the Coyotes haven't played in Anaheim yet. I'm curious to see how the Anaheim building is. Again, another consistent playoff team for the past 10 years. Just recently, they've been, in the rebuild stage and struggling a lot. So, Coyotes are part of that warmer climate teams. You look at Florida on the other coast, maybe Vegas. Maybe if Vegas missed the playoffs consecutively for 2 seasons in a row, they didn't bounce back, what would the fans look like then? These teams need to be consistent, need to win hockey games. They need to go to the playoffs consistently to keep drawing in the fans, and that's something Coyotes need to learn if and when the new building gets approved and built. They need to be competitive right away. It's not just the location. Just because this new arena, if it gets built in Tempe, where they're proposed to build it, that's not going to automatically just mean, sold out every game. They're going to have over 14,000 fans at every game. No, the Coyotes need to win hockey games to draw in the fans. But as of right now, that was a bit of a tangent. As of right now, I'm loving the atmosphere at Mullet Arena. It seems like almost every game the Coyotes put on a huge and great entertainment, great showing. They had one bad game against Dallas. They played about 6 home games, I believe, so 1 out of the 6 were bad. But they look like they have so much energy. They feed off the energy. The crowd is into it. There was a huge fight in the stands during the Boston game, and some guy even lost a finger in that fight. Just wild stuff. You wouldn't hear it anywhere else but Mullet Arena. It's a party, it's a barn, and it's fun to watch. There was some fiasco or controversy in the beginning with the makeshift dressing rooms, but it seemed like everyone glossed over the fact that it was temporary and it was only for 6 days that this dressing room would be put up like that. Now that they're finally back home, it's state-of-the-art dressing rooms. No one's complaining. No one's even taken pictures and done a whole story on the new dressing rooms. It's like they didn't even care that the Coyotes improved the dressing rooms, that it's state-of-the-art, that it has all the NHL amenities, that it's modern looking and fresh. No one's done a story on the new dressing rooms. It's like the media only cares about bad press to make the Coyotes look bad. If it's a positive spin article on the Coyotes, like their new dressing rooms, you're not going to see that. And the masses don't see that either. So I can guarantee you there's a lot of people out there who think those makeshift dressing rooms are still the dressing rooms they use today, which is wrong and unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that the mainstream media and the big hockey outlets just don't write about positive news about the Coyotes. If it's negative news, they know it's going to get a lot of hits, a lot of clicks, and get shared. So outrage news sells more than just the truth and positive news. The goal horn too. In the first game against Winnipeg, there was no goal horn. Some people were concerned, but the goal horn is there. It's loud, it's pumping. They got the goal song and Baby I'm Howling for You. They got the Howling Coyote there too. It's just a great time. I kind of want to make the trip out there, even though the tickets are expensive. And also I want to point out that they are selling out every game. Even if you see that, on the stats page, it shows 4,600 seats. That is the NHL capacity for Mullet Arena. It's not 5,000, it's 4,600. I know some people used to meme about that, saying, they only have a 4,000 seat arena. It's like, it's 4,600, close to 5,000. Those 400 seats are, I think, dedicated to the Sun Devils party deck or something along those lines. It's just for the NHL games, they can't use those 400 seats in that area for whatever reason. And if you do see empty seats on the broadcast, they're sold. So either scalpers bought them early in the season or in the off season and couldn't sell them, or people bought them and couldn't make it to the game, couldn't find a suitor for the tickets. But if you go by stats, go by tickets sold through. They've sold out every game so far, so hopefully they keep that going. And yeah, could not be happier with the experience at Mullet Arena. So that's it for me. Just a quick little fun off the cuff video. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.